Ever drive past a quarry and think, man, I wonder what it'd be like to run this whole thing?
It's crossed my mind a time or two, that's for sure.
Well, today we're going to figure out what a quarry manager actually does.
And luckily, we've got RoleCatcher to help us out. They've got tons of career resources, so we're diving into their stuff on Quarry Managers.
This should be interesting. So, from what I've seen, it looks like way more than just supervising extractions. Like the whole operation rests on their shoulders.
Absolutely. Think of it like this. They're responsible for every single step, from that initial blast all the way to loading the final product onto the trucks.
Whoa, so it's not just about rocks and dirt.
Not even close. You're managing teams, making sure everyone's safe, checking material quality. Even the budget and environmental stuff is on your plate.
So it's like being an engineer, a safety inspector, A&D, a project manager, all at the same time.
Pretty much. And don't forget, things can get a little unpredictable at a quarry. You gotta think fast and make tough decisions, sometimes with very little time.
Sounds intense. I guess you'd have to be pretty comfortable with a fast-paced environment.
You got it. It's a career path where you're always learning and adapting, especially with new tech always popping up.
RoleCatcher actually talks a lot about how tech is transforming the industry, like using drones for surveys and
Oh,
stuff.
for sure. These days, a good quarry manager needs to know how to use tech to their advantage. It's all about boosting efficiency and keeping everyone safe.
Speaking of, let's talk about the work environment itself. It's got to be way different than a typical office job.
You think? Just picture yourself standing at a quarry, dust flying everywhere, massive excavators rumbling around you. It's a full-on sensory experience.
Definitely not for the faint of heart, then. RoleCatcher describes it as demanding, but also incredibly rewarding, especially when you see a project through from start to finish.
There's nothing quite like knowing you played a key role in extracting the materials that literally build our world. It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
So how does someone even get started in a field like this? It's not like they just hand you the keys to a giant excavator on day one, right?
Probably not. But there's a definite career path you can follow. It usually starts with an operator role where you get hands-on with the machinery.
That makes sense. Get a
Yeah.
feel for the basics.
Exactly. Then you might move into a technician role, maybe specializing in something like blasting or drilling or even the analysis side of things.
So someone who loves geology could end up analyzing rock samples for quality control.
Right on. And RoleCatcher does a cool thing where they show example profiles of people at different career stages. You can see the skills they have and what they studied. Really helpful stuff.
That's got to be useful for picturing yourself in that world.
For sure. And as you gain experience, you can move into supervisory roles, leading teams, and taking on bigger responsibilities.
That's where those leadership qualities come in, right? Making decisions, managing resources, the whole nine yards.
You got it. It's like a giant puzzle, figuring out how to make everything run smoothly. And of course, becoming quarry manager is the goal for many.
Makes sense. But even then, the learning never stops, does it? Especially with new tech and regulations constantly popping up.
Oh, definitely not. The industry is always evolving. Speaking of which, sustainability is a huge topic these days.
Yeah, it seems like you can't just focus on extracting materials anymore. You have to think about the environmental impact too.
Exactly. Consumers are demanding it, and there are regulations in place to minimize the environmental footprint. A good quarry manager needs to be on top of all that.
So it's not just about knowing the technical stuff, it's about being environmentally conscious too.
100%. The best quarry managers are finding innovative ways to extract resources sustainably. It's the future of the industry.
Okay, so let's say someone's listening and they're thinking, this sounds like my kind of challenge. What should they be studying? I'm guessing geology is a good place to start.
You're not wrong. Mining engineering and geology are the classic paths, and they give you that deep understanding of the earth and extraction methods.
But you mentioned earlier that even a business degree could be useful, right?
Absolutely. Knowing how businesses work, how to manage projects, even marketing, it's all surprisingly relevant to quarry management.
Especially with the industry becoming more competitive.
You've got it. A well-rounded skill set is key. And that's where RoleCatcher comes in handy again. Remember those interview questions we talked about?
Oh yeah, it was like having a cheat sheet for your career.
Haha, well, it's more about preparation than cheating. But having those resources can definitely give you an edge.
Makes sense. So how does RoleCatcher help you stand out from the crowd when you're applying for jobs?
Well, they use AI to figure out exactly what employers are looking for in each role. It is pretty cool. Basically, it analyzes the job description and picks out the most important skills and keywords. Then it helps you tailor your resume and cover letter to highlight those specific things.
So you're not changing who you are, you're just presenting your skills in a way that employers will understand and appreciate.
Exactly. It's like having a secret weapon in the job hunt.
That makes it so much easier to connect the dots for them.
Right. It takes the guesswork out of it.
Definitely a game changer. But, we've talked a lot about the technical stuff, the skills you need. What about the kind of person who'd really thrive as a quarry manager?
Oh, good point. Beyond the resume, I'd say you got to be a natural leader, someone who can communicate well and build a strong team.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially in such a high-pressure environment, you'd need to stay calm under pressure and make smart decisions.
Absolutely. And let's not forget problem solving. Things change fast in a quarry, so you got to be adaptable and think on your feet.
So it's like a mix of technical know-how, leadership, and a bit of that adventurous spirit, maybe.
That's a great way to put it. Definitely not your average desk job.
Not at all.
No.
So if you're listening and this sounds like your kind of challenge, hands-on, demanding, but ultimately rewarding, then quarry management could be the perfect fit.
It's an industry with a bright future, especially with the push for sustainability and new technologies.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from what a quarry manager actually does day to day to the bigger trends shaping the industry.
And of course, how platforms like RoleCatcher can help you get your foot in the door.
They're a game changer for sure. But before we wrap up, I want to leave everyone with one last thought. We've talked about the what and the how of this career path.
The practical stuff.
Exactly. But don't forget about the why. Why do you want to do this? What impact do you want to make?
It's a good question to ask yourself.
Maybe you're passionate about finding sustainable ways to extract resources. Or maybe you love the challenge of leading a team and building something incredible.
Whatever your why is, let that be your guide.
It's not just about managing a quarry. It's about finding a career that truly lights you up and lets you make a difference.
Well said.
And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into the world of quarry management. We hope you learned a thing or two and maybe even feel inspired. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and as always, keep digging deeper.